As a theological non-cognitivist, I don't know what most apologists even mean when they talk about God. Whenever they try to define God, they say things like, God is a timeless, spaceless, disembodied mind, or some such thing. If that's the case, it seems very much to me like it is a contradiction in terms to say that God exists. To say that something exists independent of space and time is to say that it exists nowhere and never. So let's see if Jordan Peterson can come up with a definition of God that isn't a nonsensical contradiction.
And this has nothing to do with belief. Not the way that, is God a table? It's like, no. There, fine.
Yeah.
We'll deal with the materialist.
Yeah.
God does not have the same being as a table.
He's not another piece of furniture in our ontology.
Well, and no one ever said he was.
Right.
There's not a claim like, in fact,
just the new atheists, I think.
The claim in the Old Testament constantly is that whatever God is ineffable and beyond being and becoming. Beyond.
No, I guess he can't. To exist beyond being instead of within being is to not exist at all. To be outside of being is to be outside of existence.
Yeah.
Right, and Moses himself, he gets a glimpse of God in the burning bush, and he gets another glimpse. All he sees is God's back between, a narrow portal through two rocks, because that's all he can stand.
Yeah.
How exactly does one get a glimpse of something that is beyond being?
No one ever said God was a table. That's not the claim in the biblical corpus, not in the least. In fact, the claim is constantly, God is not a part of the natural order, right?
And I guess we're to infer that when the Bible claims that God walked through the Garden of Eden in the cool of the day like he's a physical entity, we're to ask, well, what does it mean by walk? What does it mean by through? What does it mean by garden, etc.? Every passage that apparently contradicts what Peterson believes is actually a metaphor for something that he does believe.
He's not Baal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I am who I am.
Yeah, and I am who I am. I am who I was. I am who I will be. That's all in that phrase. It's the spirit that underlies being and becoming itself.
Again, the idea that something underlies being sounds like it is outside of being, which is the same thing as not existing. It makes no sense for something to underlie being. Such a thing would not be a part of being. It would be distinct from being. In other words, it would not exist.
It's the process that gives rise to being itself.
What precisely would be the ontology of a process that gives rise to being itself? A process which gives rise to being would have to exist independent of being. It would have to exist independent of existence. This, if you can't tell, is a contradiction. It's nonsense.
And it's identical, as far as I can tell, with consciousness. It's the same thing.
How does consciousness exist independent of existence? Consciousness is an event. Events need to be carried out by something. What can carry out an event that exists outside of being?
Because that's what we do with our consciousness. We contend with possibility. We're not automatons driven by materialistic determinism.
Perhaps matter does not always behave deterministically. Even if consciousness is an entirely material phenomenon, it's still possible for it to behave with some degree of randomness. But contending with possibility is not just something consciousness does. Anything that behaves analogously to if-then flowcharts contends with possibility. Mechanical devices can do this without even being conscious.
That's not what we're like. It's not even possible technically. You can't compute your way forward into an uncertain future.
Well, you can't think your way forward into an uncertain future either. The degree to which your future is uncertain is the degree to which thinking your way through it is impossible. All you can do is prepare contingency plans and/or roll the metaphorical dice. Hell, you can even do it using literal dice, which, by the way, do not need to be conscious in order to work.
You can't use an algorithm to do that. Determinism doesn't work. That's not a theory.
Yeah, okay.
We also know that physicalism can be true even if determinism isn't. If Peterson is trying to use the fact that not everything is deterministic to argue that physicalism isn't true, his argument is a non sequitur.
We know that.
So if somebody's out there and like, I would like to believe in God if it's real. Let's say they just say that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. That's the thing.
No, I don't know. I meet people who say if God exists, I want to know that. I'm not
The price is the cross.
The price of believing in God is the cross? For everyone? For all theists? Is the cross the price of converting from atheism to Judaism or atheism to Hinduism?
My point is, would you say to them, it's not about looking at philosophical arguments, it's about taking up your cross and following him, that's the quicker path to accepting belief in God than a philosophical
exactly.
syllogism?
No, it's a mode of being.
Yeah.
It's a mode of being. It's not a set of beliefs. We were completely wrong about this. You asked earlier why so many people in the intellectual realm are converting. It's because they've understood that. Ayaan Hirsi Ali said this explicitly. We got the question wrong. Does God exist? It's like, well, what? That's not the right question. The right question is, are you going to take your cross and struggle uphill?
Well, that's not the question Ayaan Hirsi Ali asked either. She said that she converted to Christianity effectively because she thinks practicing Christianity is necessary to defend Western civilization from Muslims, wokeness, and, weirdly, non-Western Christians.
Because either way, it's faith. Either way. It's like, no. Okay, well, then what? It's all about you? It's all about your whims? Like, what's it about then? What spirit is going to possess you if it's not that spirit?
The spirit of things that aren't self-contradictory nonsense.
Repeating myself, and I apologize, but it seems to me that God could not exist, and it could still be the case that I can carry my cross uphill and that be beneficial to me. So why not just accept that? Or why not be open to that?
Because the concept of God is something like the spirit of, what would you say, hierarchical harmony. It's something like that. This is a definition. So look, beneficial for you. No.
By beneficial, I don't mean in a cheap, quick sense. I mean, I will flourish if I do this thing.
But here's the offer God makes Abraham. Okay, so here's what the story signifies. Really, this is how the story lays itself out. So Abraham is a late bloomer, right? He's privileged. He's an overgrown infant. He lives in his father's tent. He's never gone anywhere. Peeled grapes appear for him magically, He's got everything. He's got the socialist utopia happening.
Yes, nothing resembles a utopia of equality with one's fellow workers more than being rich and not a worker.
And a voice comes to him and says, get the hell away from your zone of comfort. Get out in the world. Have your adventure. Get away from your father. Get away from your tribe. Get away from your people. Get out in the world. And Abraham says, okay. And he consecrates his adventure to God. Okay, God makes him an offer. It's a deal. Here's the deal. Now, you can think about this biologically. Okay, so imagine a child. A child is motivated to mature, motivated to explore the world. Why? Because the world calls to him and beckons, and the parent helps instantiate and develop conscience. And so the child is pulled out into the world, regulated by conscience, and called forward by the manifestation of meaning.
That's a fancy way of saying that he was really bored and wanted to go backpacking.
That is a representation of the spirit that impels him towards development. Same thing in adulthood. Abraham decides he's going to live by the calling of that spirit. That's his decision. Okay, so what's the offer? Follow the pathway of adventure. You'll be a blessing to yourself. That's a good deal. Are you a blessing to yourself? No, I'm addicted to pornography. It's like, time for a better adventure there, young man.
Yeah.
Is that in the Bible?
Right. You'll be a blessing to yourself. You'll earn a well-deserved reputation. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. That's the place you store the treasure that you store up in heaven.
In your reputation? Peterson is making it sound like he believes that heaven is just a metaphor for an impressive resume. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.